What's good everyone, it's Black here. In this video we will talk about the pressure tools of Shaheen. This video will cover the main strength or his best tools for pressuring your opponent. There are a few moves that you already know for every character. The classic is the jab. His jab is pretty high for a jab, which means it can get crushed quite often from evasive moves. So instead you can go for a 2. The 2 has a bit of different properties overall. It is a +6 instead of +8 like the jab, but it's also 0 on block. So it has different purposes overall. But if you don't want to get crushed, usually go for 2. 1 can get crushed. But pressure with jabs, usually you can create some plus frames and start your offense usually. Specifically with Shaheen, after a jab you can go into full crouch, so his mobility and his good movement gives him a lot of options after his jabs, or a single jab, that is it. Since we talked about his high jabs, now another important pressure tool or mix-up tool that you need to know is his down for 1. His down for 1 is one of the best down for 1s in the game, since it has very good tracking to his left, so people who want to do sidestep right can't do that easily. It's 13 frame, 2 active frames, +5 on hit, only -1 on block. Why would I consider this as a pressure move or a 50-50 move? Since you have a lot of options after down for 1, you can create some pressure with it. Since it's -1, you can sidestep quite comfortably. You can continue to attack, since -1 is not that much a disadvantage in Tekken. And you can create a lot of mind games afterwards. And it's a great round ender as well. If you want to press like end around, it's a great tool. If you want to start your offense, it's also a great tool. Down for 1 overall is one of my favorite moves, so it is a good move for a reason. I could just do a video about down for 1 actually. Yeah, if you want to have specific explanation for moves, I could also like to do it. This is just an overall short summary for every pressure move that you can use. If you want to have more detailed version of it, I can also do just videos about specific moves. Let's talk about the first move that is plus on block and emit. Back 3. Back 3 is +14 on counter hit, 19 frame fast, a short range mid move that doesn't track that well. So usually on block it is +1 on block, on hit it is +3. And puts your opponent in both situations on crouch. It also does chip damage, so if you want to pressure your opponent who doesn't do that much, it's also fine to do some chip damage with back 3. The bad thing is, like I said, the range is not that fine. 19 frames is also considered to be slow. So I would usually recommend using back 3 for pressure on the wall. On the wall, since your opponent can't get away that easily, back 3 is a great tool to annoy your opponent. And if they are defensive, they also deal with chip damage. Like I said, on counter hit, it gives some special property. So you can go for wall splat, which is quite juicy. So you can annoy usually your opponents with back 3. Close to the wall, mostly recommended, since in the neutral it can easily get stepped or backdashed even. The next pressure tool that I like to talk about is back 1. Back 1 is a great tool overall. It is also a heat engager, as you have seen, and leads to a full heat dash combo if it lands. Back 1 is 19 frames, 19 to 20 frames fast, long range mid, puts the opponent in crouch on hit or on block. But the unique thing about back one is that you can decide if you want to be on crouch or not. Unlike other tools, you have the option to be in standing after back one, so you can go for standing tools. Or if you want to go for full crouch mix afterwards, you can also hold down and be in staying crouched, which is quite good if you want to mix up your opponent afterwards. +6 on hit is also quite good if you already used your heat, for example, or in heat itself. The bad thing about back one is it can be stepped quite easily, so you need to be careful about your opponent if he wants to sidestep, that you don't get stepped. But it also has some high crush evasiveness that it's also worth mentioning. I remember situations where people tried to jab against back one and it got crushed. So it has some useful evasiveness. The options after back one are also quite good. On block I didn't mention. On block, back one is 0. So even on block, you have a lot of options. Instead of, you can continue your pressure if you like to, or you can be defensive. On hit, you can buffer the slide input and do immediately a slide without your opponent can notice it. That's why I really like back one. Just, it's getting annoying if your opponent is sidestepping it. So be careful about that. Let's talk about his classic pressure tool. This is Wire Running 2. Wire Running 2 does 9 chip damage. It's a long range tool, or leads you to +5, which is quite good in theory. But practically, +5 is quite difficult to use, since the pushback after that is quite big. As you notice, the character goes quite far away, or Wire Running 2 puts the opponent to a certain pushback that certain moves can't threaten your opponent that much anymore if it's on block. Like down for 2 or down for 1 is like borderline hitting. Probably if the opponent would try to backdash, he could do that. So there are not really good follow-ups on it. Like you can also delay your Wire Running 2 input so it gets better tracking, but it also takes longer. So be careful if you want to catch sidestepping opponents by mixing your Wire Running 2 timings up. But it has good range. Definitely from distance, it's your easiest go-in move if you want to apply pressure against your opponent. And 9 chip damage is also quite good. Just be careful that you don't get sidestepped. His newest tool, which is also one of his best tools in my opinion, is Sidestep 1+2. Sidestep 1+2 is 19 frame fast, is +3 on block. In the beginning it used to be +5, only +3 now. Doesn't put the opponent far away, unlike Wire Running 2. And on countered, it has some great follow-up. Or some guaranteed follow-up, better said. Almost 50 damage. So it is a great tool if you're close to the opponent. Already try to implement some sidestep in your game and then use Sidestep 1+2. On normal hit, true. On normal hit, it is +22, which is also amazing. +22 used to be his old 4-3 on normal hit. And this means, for example, if you heat and Sidestep 1+2 hits, you have like a free mix-up with his charge move, with his Taran. So mixing, you have like a free mix-up after Sidestep 1+2. It is also a move that does chip damage. So your opponent has the urge or feels pressured if you annoy him with Sidestep 1+2. That's why it has some evasiveness. So usually your sidestep can evade or doesn't evade that much as Sidestep 1+2. Not in every case, but in a few cases that I witnessed. So if you want to be evasive, Sidestep 1+2 is also kind of helpful. The only bad thing about Sidestep 1+2 is that it tracks to one direction, to the right, or better said, people can sidestep right it easier than sidestep left it. So people can sidewalk right it quite easy if you are doing sidestep right against it, or if you're. But another weakness about Sidestep 1+2 is the range, because the range is not the best. Like this. Now, this is a decent example, but also exaggerated, because this is still quite good for Shaheen in this area. But if you do, for example, 1-2 on block, if your opponent is ready, on certain ranges, it can get backdashed. So don't underestimate or don't overestimate the range of Sidestep 1+2. It can get backdashed at some point, so be careful about it. But on the wall, it's one of your best pressure tools that you have, because on counter hit, it also leads to a wall split and continuous pressure. Because after the wall combo, you usually can apply another Sidestep 1+2 to annoy your opponent. So I would usually recommend you as a Shaheen player to apply Sidestep 1+2 on the wall and on close range, not on distance. On distance, it can whiff quite easily. So let's talk about his most unique move, and I think one of the most unique moves in the entire game, because there is no other move that has this, which is Taran. Taran is a neutral, a move that you can't use that easily because you need to be crouched for 40 frames and then press up. Although you have options to buffer it. For example, any movement with a down input, like down for 1, down back 2, down 2, down 1. You can charge it during the animation of that move and press up afterwards. So you have very good mobility with that move. Of course, it could be better, it could be easier, but this move on block is +6, does 3 chip damage. Oh no, sorry, it does more chip damage. Sorry. It does 12 chip damage, which is quite high. On normal hit, it leads to guaranteed follow-up. Which is also amazing. And heat, it's a tornado launcher. And it's like a guard break, which is +13 on block in heat. So you have some guaranteed follow-up as well. It can be very good if you know how to use it. It's a very specific move to apply pressure, but you can basically loop in it while holding. After the first input is finished, you can already hold down and then prepare the upcoming Taran. It is a high. It has some unique tracking, so which means on certain properties where your opponent is mad plus, they can step it. For example, on +8 they can step it. Let's find a move like this. Since it's 0, down for 4 and hit, The Taran is tracking better than before, but I also think it is range dependent. Or down one. Only +1. Or +2. So you can, as you've seen, you can even buffer the Taran in standing moves. It's only important that you have like a small gap in between. For example, when I press 1, I can do 2 ones at once. Since I'm holding down after I'm finished with the, no, during the animation of the move, which means I'm holding down during the animation of my attack and charging it. I can only release around 9 frames, or I can be neutral for around 9 frames. Otherwise, it doesn't get counted as charged anymore. But if I hold down after mixing at maximum 9 frames, you can still charge moves quite well. There are some setups for that. For example, down for 1 into down for 1 into this. Because after 1 down for 1, it's not enough to do a Taran. So basically do 2. Finding the right usage of it is not easy, but it can be very helpful to annoy your opponent, to make your opponent duck, and yeah, mix your opponent up. So he would like to sidestep or duck because he's scared or he's annoyed by running and by Taran. Or his longest range pressure tool that Shaheen has got, that is also a heat engager, is his up for 1. Up for 1 is a 24-25 frames move that leads, that is a heat engager, but also heat dash launcher. So very long range, mid. So if heat is activated, you get a guaranteed follow-up like that, and it is +1 on block. So it has very good properties. It is just quite slow and quite linear. So people can step it quite easily. So be careful how to use it. On distance, it is more practical, because if you want to whiff punish someone, or if you want to annoy your opponent with a safe low crush move, which also gives wall splat, it is a good way to go. Just don't overextend too much, because then you're vulnerable to get floated or get stepped. But I personally really like the move outside of heat, because then you get a guaranteed follow-up with back 4 usually. And it's a great punish for heat burst. If someone is whiffing his heat burst from distance, it is a great tool to whiff punish them. It is also worth mentioning it that you can use up for 1 during the full crouch. So if you are on full crouch mix or on full crouch, then you can go for up for 1. Because a lot of people, when they see Shaheen ducking in distance, they like to duck, because usually he doesn't have that great tools from that distance, unless they do up for 1. Okay, that was a bit too far, but like this. But still, have in mind, it still can get sidewalked left. So it's not easy to implement it in the proper way or find the easy way to do it. But it's still worth mentionable, and it can apply pressure to opponents who don't sidestep properly. It's definitely a good move if your opponent is frozen and doesn't step that much. And it also does chip damage. which I need to show you as well. 10 chip damage, which is a lot. We talked about many highs and mids in the neutral, but we also need to mention the lows to mix up the opponent, since pressure means also mixing up your opponent with lows to make your opponent insecure and hopefully make him able to crouch. Unless he doesn't crouch, we have lows like down 1, which is uncounted plus 28 and minus 13 on block, and puts the opponent in puts your character in crouch. Has okay tracking, not the best to be fair, but has longer range than his down 3 that we will also talk about later. Down 1 is quite good because it is only minus 13. It has good properties on normal hit as well. It is plus 4 and you are crouched, which means you have good follow-ups. There's good full crouch follow-ups. It is high crushing, so if your opponent wants to keep out you, it is difficult to contest with highs. They need to do bits if they want to beat the down 1. Counter hit, it's plus 28. So you get the free mix-up basically. With raw running 2, for example. Plus 28 is amazing. Minus 13 means not everyone can launch it. Or only a few characters can launch it. Unlike down 3, which is minus 14 and more characters can launch it. The bad thing about this down 1 is that it's 20 to 21 frames slow, which means certain people or certain situations when people are ready to block it, they can react on it. It is very difficult and maybe not many people do that, but it can happen that you have a feeling that a lot of people can react to down 1 because it's like borderline reactable. And one of the other bad things is that doesn't have the best tracking. If they're ready, they can step it. But in season 2, it's one of his newer lows that can be used for mixing up your opponent and annoy your opponent, because it does more damage than his down 3 and is way easier to access than in the previous than his previous lows. 16 damage on normal hit is also quite good. Like his full crouch jump for 4, but you don't need to be in full crouch. You can just go for the neutral. So one of his most important keyboard 50-50 tool. Another fast 50-50 tool and pressure tool is his down 3. Down 3 is also pretty unique. It doesn't have the best range. It is 0 on hits if you just go for the regular version. If you press down forward, it can be plus 4. And you're in SNK stance. Unlike down 1, with down 3, you are in SNK. If you press down forward, of course. It is minus 14 minimum if people block it. This is a wrong info that it's minus 10 down 3 if in the SNK. It is minimum minus 14 in that case. But you need to cancel it perfectly, which means you might get launched if your opponent if you don't cancel it properly. I have certain experiences where people launched me for my failed down 3 SNK cancel. So be careful when to use it, when to go into the full crouch, into the SNK. Down 3, just the down 3 itself is usually safer. It is also high crushing and has better tracking than down 3. Down 1, sorry. So and it's faster, 4 frames faster, which means people can't react on it, on the down 3. Unlike down 1. It does less damage though, it is more unsafe. It is more useful to go for close range. And if your opponent is sidestepping you, it's a better mix-up tool than down 1. If your opponent doesn't step that much, I would say down 1 is better. And if they don't backdash duck or fuzzy duck it or react, usually you should go for down 1. Down 3 is the tool when you're close range and people sidestep you, but you still want to go for low, then you usually go for down 3. Another useful low to end rounds that I'd like to use to end rounds is down 4. Down 4 is low, has good range for Shaheen. It's only -12, +1 on hit. So you can end rounds like this. Only does 10 damage, unfortunately. They reduced the damage in this season. It used to do 12. But yeah, it's great for ending rounds. It is good to annoy your opponent here and there from distance with lows, if you don't want to take the risk with down 1. Since it's not high crushing, you can get hit easier by keep out moves. So be careful when to use it. And it leads to a certain pushback, or it gives creates a certain distance. Unlike down 1, which puts Shaheen closer to your opponent, and down 3, which has the same purpose. Especially when you go for down forward to go into SNK stance, you usually approach your opponent. Same goes for down 1. And another low that you have access to is his Sidestep II. Sidestep II is a long range low, definitely, +1 on hit and on counter hit, and only -12. It used to be -13 in season 1. People still want to punish it with 13 frame punishes, but in season 2, not possible. It has long range. It's a great tool if you want to close the gap between you and your opponent, and sometimes even very good to mix them up with sides of 1+2. But be careful, it is a slower low. The sidestep in Sidestep II is not included when it says 20 frames, which means it takes kind of longer than 20 frames. And it's also not really high crushing. It looks like it crushes highs. Maybe at the very last frames it might be the case, but don't rely on it as a high crush move. It puts you also in full crouch as well. Or both of you are in full crouch. So basically you can go for full crouch mix or create some distance, sidestep, whatever you like. But it's a good move to close the gap between you and your opponent. These were all moves that you can use usually in the neutral. Exceptionally, I also use Taran. Overall, you can find ways to use it in neutral, even though it's not easy. And up for 1, which also can be implemented in the full crouch mix. But if you want to talk about his full crouch stance or like state, which is also a great mix-up stance position, he is one of the few characters who can feint his crouch stance. So he's feinting to go forward. And his first pressure tool or mix-up tool is his slide. His slide is a 60 to 20 frames low, 5 active frames, which is a lot, and leads to a guaranteed follow-up. If you want the easy guaranteed follow-up, it's from SNK II. If you want to have a better mix-up, you need to cancel his SNK into full crouch down forward 4. This is the mix-up options are way better, but it also can be messed up if you don't do your SNK cancel properly. Light, or his full crouch overall, has very good annoying mix-ups. Slide is his higher risk, higher reward option, which is also low crushing and has long range. Less risk, but also less reward would be his full crouch down forward 4. It has the same speed as its slide, but it is not high crushing. If you press down forward, you can still be in his SNK stance to continue your pressure. If you don't go into his stance, it's just +1. Usually every Shaheen player goes for this stance and cancel it if he doesn't want to go anymore in the stance. Full crouch jump for 4 hits also grounded is doing 16 damage. Or 16 damage. It's a lot for a low that can be only -12 on block. The thing about full crouch jump for 4 is it says in the frame advantage it's -11, but to cancel it you need at least 2 of his frames. So it's 1 frame at least. So you can't do it on the 11th frame to cancel it perfectly. So canceling it is not that easy. But if you master it, it is -12 low that does 16 damage and has good follow-ups, since you are +4 in your SNK stance. So this is one of your most important lows that you need to do in close range. The range is not the best, so be careful if you want to do it from distance, since you need to be in close range to get the most reward out of it. What is also worth mentioning it for slide and full crouch jump for 4. This slide is, the thing about a blocked slide is that the combo damage that your opponent will do is all gray life. So basically, if you get blocked, if your slide get blocked, when you block a slide, the combo damage that you do is mostly gray life. Or as a Shaheen player, which means look how much gray life he got from this combo. So basically can't get punished that crazy, because basically you can get all your gray life back again. Using slide is something, even though you're getting launched, you still be able to get your life back theoretically. So the risk is not as high as people might say, but still it hurts if someone's blocking and launching you, especially at the end of the round. The other thing about full crouch jump for 4 is, that I wanted to mention, it has an extension. You can't delay it. This is the full crouch jump for 4-1. So basically, if you're scared that your opponent wants to punish your low, then you can buffer or you can press already the 1 as well. If someone is blocking the low and wants to punish the high, they usually get punished for it. Like this. He wanted to punish it with Y rising 2. But you can, especially close to the wall, it adds a layer of keep out instead of pressuring. If you want to pressure your opponent, people need to be ready for the keep out version of full crouch jump for 4-1 as well. On counter hit, if the first one hits on counter hit, the second one is guaranteed anyways. Which is a 43 damaging, or over 40 damaging low high string. Be aware of using the high too often, because even if the low is on hit, people can crouch the second one. So it still can get punished if you are too reckless by using it too often. And if it's not on counter hit, then people can duck it. They don't do it, but some of them do it. So be careful about it. Since I mentioned the lows from his full crouch, the low risk, low reward, and high risk, high reward low, we need to mix it up somehow. And the mix-ups for that are his hop kick. It is high risk, higher reward. And his low risk and lower reward full crouch down for 2. Which is a wall split and great Okis for on normal hit. Although it is -9 on block. So you're losing your turn basically if someone is blocking full crouch down for 4. Full crouch down for 2, of course. So basically on close range you have the low, which is low risk, low reward, and this low risk, low reward for a bit. But on the wall, it can be very annoying to deal with it. Since you get a lot of damage and people are paying attention to your lows, that we will also mention soon. Another safer and faster option that you got from full crouch is wire rising 1. Wire rising 1 tracks to one direction. If people want to sidestep right, wire rising 1 is a good way to go. It is +4 on hit, -2 on block. On counter, it has a similar property as back 3 on countered. On countered, it has a similar property as back 3 on countered, but the opponent is not crouched. So you can get a wall split with down big 2-1 or down foot 4-3. So it can be very useful for saver mix-ups. But for higher reward, full crouch down for 2 is good. Wall split, full crouch down for 4, and his slide. So having a right balance for using all these tools is essential to make Shaheen work properly. Since he's a slide character like Law and Lee, he relies on that pretty much on his full crouch stance, I would say. I would consider the full crouch as a stance since it has unique properties with his slides or mix-up options with his slides. These were the main moves for Shaheen and his pressure or mix-up tools. He still has a few situational moves that you can use for mix-up or pressure, but these were the most important ones that every Shaheen player should use. For example, I didn't cover the back 2 topic. Back 2 is also a great tool if someone is ducked and if you want to 50-50 your opponent in a safe way, you should also use back 2. And it also has evasiveness. But it's an own move that I want to talk about in the future. We didn't talk about the SNK stance. So if you want to see a video about the SNK stance, feel free to write it in the comment if there's interest on it. We talked about the most important stuff for Shaheen now about his pressure. I hope it could give you some insight about it. If you want to see more in-depth talk about certain moves or situations, might be on the wall or in the neutral, feel free to let me know in the comments, because then I can adjust my YouTube videos on your interest. So thanks everyone who watched this video for so far. If you watched it till the very end, feel free to write #IWasHere to know if you watched till the very end. I would appreciate it a lot. The next video that I will do about Shaheen will be his keep out tools. We talked about pressure in this video, but this is just one thing, all of 3 things that it's important for Shaheen or for any character. And the next or upcoming videos, I will talk about his keep out and getaway tools that are also very good of Shaheen. Some of them are amazing. So hope you tune in there as well. Wish you all a great day and see you hopefully in the next video again.